WWE's talent pool is absolutely bursting at the moment, and the company is ridiculously well stocked with top performers at every single level, from shows like 205 Live and NXT UK all the way up to Raw and SmackDown's big main event scenes. Basically, they've become a bunch of hoarders. Like Scrooge McDuck, Vince McMahon wants all the shiny things and he wants them to himself. And this means no matter how busy the roster gets, there will always be room for more, and if WWE want to sign the absolute best in 2019, then here is who they should be looking at. Before we dive into it, let's just make the point that we are not saying these guys will definitely sign, rather it's just a list of realistic roster boosters for the upcoming year, though we haven't included those bound to full-time contracts elsewhere for much of the year because that would be illegal. But enough of the bollo, let's get into it. I'm Andy for WhatCulture Wrestling, and here are 10 huge signings WWE must make in 2019. Number 10. Shane Strickland. Otherwise known as Lucha Underground's Killshot, Shane Strickland has been one of the main beneficiaries of WWE's increasingly aggressive talent acquisition policy, having jumped into many a spotlight once occupied by the likes of Keith Lee and Matt Riddle on the indie scene. Strickland's athletic, charismatic talents mean he has warranted a seat at independent wrestling's top table for years. That he hadn't reached that level prior to now says more about how crowded it was than anything else, and his in-ring credentials cannot be denied. That Strickland has played a pivotal role in the WWE-affiliated Evolve group this year adds further fuel to the fire, and he has reportedly been on Vince McMahon and Triple H's radar all year. Put it this way, it would be a surprise if he didn't show up in WWE at this stage. Number 9. Simone Johnson. Your first reaction to hearing this name on our list may very well be, what is this bald idiot talking about? So let's just clear that up nice and early. She's The Rock's daughter, so yeah, sign her now. According to Pro Wrestling Sheet, the 17-year-old spent time training at the Performance Center earlier in 2018 with the ultimate goal of following in her father's legendary legacy. Now, she was only there on a part-time basis, but there is talk that she could transition to a full-time permanent role, and in doing so, she'd become a fourth-generation WWE superstar following in the footsteps of her dad The Rock, grandfather Rocky Johnson, and great-grandfather High Chief Peter Maivia. Nia Jax's situation proves that WWE will continually utilize anyone related to The Rock, no matter their ability level. Now, there's every chance Johnson Jr. could be a wrestling prodigy and someone who displays a natural aptitude for the sport well beyond her years, but let's be honest, WWE would probably push her to the moon way before she was ready, regardless. Number 8. Rey Fenix. An injury robbed Rey Fenix of the last few months of 2018, but he should be ready to go by early 2019. Him and fellow Lucha brother Pentagon Jr. have already been linked with WWE next year, but after reportedly clearing their schedules a couple of months ago, it looks as though that deal may now be on ice for now. Frankly, WWE would be absolutely mental not to revive it, as both would be immediate boons to NXT. Though often the less celebrated of the two, Fenix is the more impressive in-ring worker. He doesn't quite have his brother's personality, but he's one of the most fluid wrestlers in the world, a great seller, and a guy genuinely capable of pulling out things you've never seen on a night-by-night basis, and there's not many people you can say that about in today's modern wrestling world. And when it comes to global high flyers, only Will Ospreay and Ricochet deserve to be in the same conversation. Fenix is everywhere these days, working for the likes of PWG, Impact, CMLL, and AAW. If his Impact contract situation isn't too restrictive, and it doesn't sound like it is, his name should be very, very high on Triple H and Vince McMahon's wish list. Number 7. MEIKO Satomura. Let's be clear for a second, WWE aren't going to sign Satomura to a full-time deal. The Japanese legend and Mae Young Classic competitor is too deeply involved in her country's Joshi scene to make the jump, and she currently runs Sendai Girls, one of the market-leading promotions. There's little chance she'd walk away from all that permanently to work sparsely attended NXT house shows around Florida, but regardless, WWE should absolutely think about pursuing a part-time deal, because Satomura is one of the best in the world. She's been built up as something of a final boss figure in Japan, and there's no reason she couldn't play that same role in NXT, jetting in for the odd TV videotaping here and there, working much like a female Brock Lesnar, only, you know, without the insanely long absentee title reigns. Big showcase matches against top NXT talent makes all the sense in the world. Imagine SATOMURA versus Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, or Shayna Baszler on a big takeover special. The bouts would be incredible, and with SATOMURA widely regarded as one of the top women's wrestlers anywhere, WWE would be insane not to strike some kind of working relationship. Number 6. Pentagon Jr. Well, if we were gonna talk about his brother, it's only right that we mention Pentagon as well, because this mad skeleton ninja is totally unique. His aura, presence, and mystique are one of a kind. Now, WWE don't exactly have the best track record when it comes to protecting such things, of course, look at Bloody Asuka for one, but they should at least try to make it work, because Penta would be a huge hit if given a chance to work his dark, evil magic. Pretty much everyone knows this guy by now, and his exposure increased to new levels after becoming Impact Wrestling Champion this year and stealing the show versus Kenny Omega at All In. He's a real spectacle act, a guy who gets by primarily on character and aura, though he's no slouch in the ring either, far from it in fact. And while his style is very indie-rific, Pentagon's matches are regularly some of the most exciting on the independents and in Impact. See his recent feud with Sami Callihan for proof of Penta's violent delights. Now, things wouldn't get that bloody in WWE, but imagine this crazy bastard's reign of terror over NXT. It would be utterly fantastic, and the fans would surely lap it up, until he got called up to the main roster and turned into the Lucha House Party's weird goth mate. Boo hiss. Number 5. Daniel Cormier. Good old DC is the UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight champion at the moment. He's also damn near 40 years old and probably pretty beaten up. These things are all working against his feasibility in WWE, but we're not actually talking about wrestling here. Cormier has been linked with a potential role in WWE's commentary team when the big Fox TV deal kicks in next October. Rumor has it that the new network want WWE's blue brand to take on a new sport-like feel, and given DC's immense combat sports credibility, he'd certainly help in that regard. He's also a massive wrestling fan, and, as evidenced by his recent UFC promo work, someone who might already be preparing for the transition from real sport to sports entertainment. A tremendous professional and immensely likeable guy, and a decorated mixed martial artist and collegiate wrestler, he'd fit this company like a glove and already has experience working as a broadcaster for the UFC, so while there's no saying he'd make an immediate adaptation to life in WWE, he's very well equipped to do so. And on top of all this, there's also talk that his rumoured fight with Brock Lesnar might well be his last. Number 4. MEISHA Tate. It would be easy as hell to just fill this list with former women's mixed martial artists, given how quickly they seem to adapt to professional wrestling. Shayna Baszler is quietly having one of the best years in WWE, both in terms of in-ring output and character work, while Ronda Rousey is the most convincing rookie WWE has had since Kurt Angle. If Marina Shafir and Jessamine Duke work out even half as well as those two, the company will be on to a winner. One of Rousey's greatest career rivals, Tate hung up her MMA gloves in 2016. She's still only 32 years old and was insanely marketable in her own sport. Not only would this carry over to WWE, but the company could lean on her existing relationship and history with Ronda to craft a ready-made storyline, giving Tate an easy in for main roster life. Number 3. Chris Jericho. My god, would there be some serious bridges to rebuild here, as you can't imagine Vince McMahon is best pleased with all the wacky stuff Chris Jericho has been up to in 2018. Nonetheless, as he builds his own freelancing empire, Jericho is one of the most buzzworthy wrestlers around at the moment, so why wouldn't WWE try to capitalize on all his buzz? Whether or not Y2J would actually want to come back is another thing entirely. He's got a great gig as a New Japan part-timer, and the cruises are apparently about to become an annual thing. On top of all this, he'd almost certainly want greater control over his destiny than WWE might allow, but he's a smart man who works the industry like no other. If it makes sense to Jericho, he'd probably do it. Number 2. Batista. SmackDown 1000's Evolution reunion bred waves of excitement for a potential WrestleMania match between Triple H and Batista. Sadly, the game's big stupid injury means that may now be off the table, but WWE would still be wise to utilize the animal while he still has the will to fight. He clearly wants to give it one last shot, so let's make it happen. Given that he's 49 years old, hasn't wrestled since 2014, and has a pretty tidy movie career going, Batista probably isn't going to sign full-time. He could, however, be used in a major program leading towards the Showcase of the Immortals. And fellow former Evolution buddy Randy Orton would make great sense as an opponent if Triple H isn't ready, given their past relationship and the Viper's safety-first style. And at number 1, the Elite. Alright, put your pitchforks away. I know these guys are probably on the verge of doing their own thing with All Elite Wrestling. But because that isn't technically a done deal yet, and their contracts are up in January 2019, WWE could still make an approach. Remember, it's signings WWE must make in 2019, not will make. If there's a chance to sign Cody, Hangman Page, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, WWE should obviously pull the trigger. They're among the most important wrestlers in the world today, their entrepreneurial spirit knows no bounds, and each is well equipped to be a big success for the biggest promotion on the planet. Concessions would need to be made on both sides, and the level of freedom that the Elite would demand makes this signing even less likely. Still, there's no more powerful group outside WWE at the moment, and if they really want to stifle competition, from Vince McMahon's point of view, signing the Elite is an absolute must.